Hey, I want to teach you today about how you can become fat adapted and what that even means. Why would I want to become fat adapted, Jamie? Let me tell you. So, when we talk about weight loss, our goal isn't actually specifically to lose weight, right? Because we can lose water weight, we can lose muscle weight, but we want to lose weight in fat. We want to burn the fat on our bodies. And there's only one way to use the fat on our bodies, and that's to use it as fuel. So, how do we use it as fuel? I'm getting to that. But our body prefers to get energy either from sugar, or we could say glucose, or from the fat on our bodies. So, we could say that you're either a sugar burner or a fat burner. So let me give you kind of the symptoms so that you can gauge where you're at right now. So if your body prefers to use sugar, and I'm not talking about the white powdery stuff necessarily, but just glucose, if your body prefers to use sugar as fuel, then you are hungry often. Maybe 2 hours after you eat a meal, you're already hungry again. When you are hungry, it feels urgent. It feels like an emergency. You feel ravenous. You want to grab the very first thing you can put your hands on, or else you can't focus on anything. Another way to tell if you are a sugar burner is if you have frequent cravings. If you're constantly giving your body a lot of glucose that's easy to break down, it's going to demand that more often, so you're going to have more frequent cravings. If you're a sugar burner, you have energy crashes. So in the middle of the day, you're just like, ugh, I'm exhausted. That typical afternoon slump, right? And then lastly, a good sign that maybe your body prefers glucose over fat as fuel is if you are carrying especially belly fat on your body, then you are probably a sugar burner. So what are the symptoms of being a fat burner? If you are a fat burner, then you are hungry less often. Your meals sustain you until your next meal, like 5 or 6 hours. When you are hungry, it's not that big of a deal. It just feels like a little nudge, nudge. Hey, it's time to give us some food, please. It doesn't feel like a big deal. You also, if you're a fat burner, you don't crave junk as much because your body realizes that it's got plenty of food on your body that it can access, and it doesn't need to demand that from you. You have more constant energy, and best of all, you enjoy an effortlessly lean body, right? Because your body's really good at utilizing fat as fuel, and it doesn't crave the sweets as often because it's already got plenty of food on your body that it can use for fuel. So, how do we get there? How do we become fat adapted? So there's 3 main things. They're very simple. 1, eat less sugar. 2, eat less flour. And 3, eat less often, meaning eat 3 meals a day, no constant grazing and snacking all throughout the day. So I want to give you kind of a visual to really help internalize how this works. So this is, you get to enjoy my artwork here, the fridge and freezer visual. So let's think about it this way. Your body is always utilizing fuel, right? So we can imagine that there's like a little stick figure and it's your body. And it's either standing at the fridge eating, or it's standing in the freezer eating something. So when you eat a lot of sugar or flour, you are putting a lot of units of energy into this fridge. And eventually, once the fridge is full, you're gonna have to put more of that in the freezer. So your body's always metabolizing whatever energy you give it, and as long as there is fuel for it in the fridge, it is not going to go to the freezer to get its food. Especially because like the freezer's in the garage, it's a long way away. We're gonna have to wait for it to thaw. We're gonna have to cook it. That sounds like a lot of work. It's a different metabolic process for your body to use fat as opposed to sugar. It's a process that it doesn't like to do if it's more accustomed to doing this. So when you're eating a lot of sugar and flour, you're putting lots of units into here, you're eating often, you're just like putting stuff in the fridge, and you cannot access the freezer. You can't access the fat. So before we can access the fat, the fridge is going to have to be empty. So the best way to do this, again, those 3 things: cut down on the sugar, cut down on the flour, eat less often. So when we get to that point, we get to a point every day where there's nothing left in the fridge and we have to access the freezer. We have to access the fat. So just a little caveat here, your body, if it's used to going to the fridge, if it's used to utilizing sugar as fuel, it's gonna throw a little fit when it has to go to the freezer. Because again, just like, and that's why I like this analogy, because just like it takes more energy to go out to the garage and thaw the food and cook it, your body is gonna have to utilize some different physiological processes in order to use that fat for fuel. And it's gonna take about 2 to 6 weeks that it's going to feel absolutely miserable. And you're gonna say, I thought I was supposed to have more energy when I was used to using fat as fuel. But initially it's gonna feel the opposite. You're gonna feel kind of exhausted. Some people call it the carb flu. When you're trying to make this switch to getting your body really used to utilizing fat as fuel. But again, it is so worth it, because on the other side of all that misery, your body prefers fat as fuel. It doesn't give you kind of the kick in the pants of like, hey, we need sugar because we're hungry. It's gonna be like, oh, I've got some food right here on our body that we are really good at breaking down. So this is easier said than done, right? So if you would love to get some help to put you in the right direction, to figure out what's going on in here that's keeping you filling up that fridge with sugar and flour and snacking too often, then I would love to do a free coaching call with you where we can get down to what's getting in your way and how I can help you to become fat adapted so that you can enjoy that lean body for the rest of your life. So I've included the link wherever you're watching this. I'll put a note as to where you can schedule that free call with me, and I would love to hear from you soon.